Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For cables, connectors, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by the Ham Station. Get your new radio or antenna by calling 800-729-4373 or go to hamstation.com.
It's Ham Radio.
We're the Ham Band, and we play that country music morning, noon, and evening, and the middle of the night. Come and hear the Ham Band when we're in your location, or else we'll come and get you. Won't give up without a fight. We'll seek you all through the night, seek you every day, and seek and find you we will. So don't dismay. You know the hunt is the thrill, seek the price you pay. We'll seek you over those hills and far away.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's Ham Talk Live, episode number 75 with the Ham Band. Recorded live on Thursday, August 3rd, 2017. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. And tonight we're joined by Andrew, OZ5E, and Lisa from the Ham Band in Denmark. And we'll take your calls live, as we always do, in just a few minutes. And last week here on Ham Talk Live, Sam Rose, KC2LRC, and Dr. Nathaniel Frisell, W2NAF, were here to talk about the solar eclipse QSO party coming up. So if you missed that or any other show, all you have to do is go to hamtalklive.com. And you can listen to us on demand, and we're also on the podcast things, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, and SoundCloud, and we're over on YouTube, so just check us out wherever is most convenient for you. Well, I just rolled in from taking a few days of vacation down in Myrtle Beach, and it was good to get away, but wow, I'm overwhelmed with all the stuff that I have to catch up on, because there's been a lot going on, and I haven't quite caught up with it all, but there were a few things that were going to happen right away that I did want to mention just briefly. First of all, a very hearty congratulations to our friend Marty Soloway, KC1CWF, for being named this year's Amateur Radio Newsline Bill Pasternak Young Ham of the Year Award winner. So congratulations, Marty. He's going to be formally receiving that in Huntsville at the Ham Fest in just a couple of weeks. So congratulations to him. Also, there's a FEMA exercise that started today called Vigilant Guard, and that continues today through August 6th. And Lloyd Colston, KC5FM, sent us some information on that, and honestly, I haven't had time to read it all, but I wanted to mention that, so if you are interested in that FEMA exercise, make sure you get a hold of Lloyd or look up Vigilant Guard, and you can find something about that. And also, we'll have something over on Amateur Radio Newsline about that real soon, but that'll be after the fact. And one last thing, a shout out to Ryan Geiser, N8VBQ, from Lexington, KY. Thanks for listening, and appreciate to hearing about you listening to the show. So thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. So, guys, gals, get your questions ready to go for the Ham Band, and we're going to talk to them for a while and listen to some of their music, and then we'll give you a chance to call in. And when we do that, it's not time yet, but when we do that, the phone number to call is 812-NET-HAM-1. That's 812-638-4261 for the alphabetically challenged. Or on Skype, you can call us on Skype. Our username is just Ham Talk Live. You can also tweet us. Again, the name is Ham Talk Live. So I'll be back with Andrew and Lisa right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you in part by Tower Electronics. Tower Electronics has been the Ham's dime store since 1978. When you need connectors, mobile and handheld antennas, cables, or adapters, visit Scott or Jill at a Hamfest near you. Or you can order online at pl-259.com or call 920-435-2973. Stock up on those supplies like PL259 and N connectors, SMA adapters, audio cables, soldering supplies, mobile antennas, and ham sticks. Their silver-plated N connectors are even used on the International Space Station. Tower Electronics carries MFJ, Comet, Daiwa, OPEC, Workman, and Ham Pro products. And don't miss their 0% off sale going on now. Tower Electronics, online at pl-259.com, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
At Ham Talk Live, we have $1 million request guarantee. You give us $1 million, and we'll do a show about whatever ham topic you request. Guaranteed.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Thanks to Scott and Jill at Tower Electronics for sponsoring the show tonight. To help bring you Ham Talk Live, they'll be in Berryville, Virginia on Sunday, and then in Huntington, West Virginia, August 12th, and then Huntsville, August 19th and 20th, and September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, they'll be at Shelby, North Carolina. Or you can give them a call at 920-435-2973 or visit their website at pl-259.com and tell them you heard it on Ham Talk Live, and make sure you listen to the show every Thursday night, 9 p.m. right here at hamtalklive.com. Well, tonight, Andrew and Lisa are with us. Andrew has many call signs, but is perhaps best known for his contest station in Denmark, OZ5E. His personal call signs are OZ1XJ and G3WZZ. He and his wife Lisa make up the Andrew, John, and Lisa duo. They are very well-known musicians, especially in Denmark, and are members of the Dartford Folk Club Hall of Fame. But tonight, we're talking about another band they formed, and that's the Ham Band. Yes, it's the people who made that video from atop that 100-foot tower. They're here to talk with you this evening. And actually, it's 3 o'clock in the morning in Denmark, and I gave them a chance to do this pre-recorded, and they said, no, we want to do it live, and they may be regretting that decision right now as they're loading up on coffee. So Andrew and Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show anyway.
Yeah, but it's nice to be here, and a lot of coffee, and we'll be okay. And Lisa's here too?
Yes, and it's pitch dark outside, and our dog refused to come over to the radio room, so he's still asleep in the big house.
Sensible guy.
Yeah, I'd say it's sensible. So thank you so much for being up at 3 a.m. for the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. And a few years ago, this music video that you guys made, Come and Join Us on the Airwaves, it went viral over here, at least. It was playing on a big screen TV at Dayton a few years ago, and it's been a big topic of discussion in the ham radio club that I do at my school, that we always play that video, and they always sing. They're singing it, half the time. And so I thought, we ought to reach out and see if you'd come on the show and talk a little bit about how you made that video. But before we do that, you were kind enough to send me a copy of your whole CD called Seek You. course, which that's a play on CQ. And I had a chance to listen to it on a drive home one night last week, and I was really, really impressed. And I've been looking forward to doing the show because the wit of some of these lyrics and the quality of this CD was just so impressive. And I know you guys are fans of the Spurious Emissions Band. We've had them on, and they do some rock and roll parodies. But this is some original country songs about ham radio and some of the real struggles in ham's lives. So tell us about the CD and the musicians that you used for making that recording.
Well, we were in the middle of doing a recording in Nashville, and which is where we do all our recording. And I had this idea, let's see whether we can write a lot of songs that really do tell the whole story about amateur radio. And I was so lucky at the time I decided to write the songs. It was, nothing, it's not recently, but there's not a lot new happened in amateur radio since we did the album. So it was very, very lucky that we chose the right time. And we got the best musicians in the world playing the music. So it turned out quite nice, and I think more than 1 million people have seen the video, and a few people have bought the album. Not enough, and amateur radio's not an expensive hobby at all, in my opinion. But the way we do it at Oscar Zulu 5 Echo in Denmark, we're quite an advanced station. We've got a lot of nice antennas, and the music side of things, it keeps us happy in the because every time we do a contest or work DX, the people say, "Hey, isn't that Andrew from the hand band?" So I think we've made a couple of people happy going.
Yeah, and these musicians from Nashville, tell us some of the people they play with. They've played with in the past.
Well, the owner of the studio is Wayne Moss, and he everybody knows that the Roy Orbison song "Pretty Woman," and it goes dong 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 dong, and the guy who played that riff was Wayne Moss, who owns the studio. He didn't even play on the record, and then the bass player, I don't know if anybody remembers that the Buddy Holly, when his plane crashed, there was Waylon Jennings and a gentleman called, just a moment, my mind it's the middle of the night. But
Tommy Alsop.
Yeah, Tommy Alsop. Now, Tommy Alsop played the bass on this record, and he was the guy who flipped a coin with the Big Bopper, and the Big Bopper got the seat on the plane, and he died in the crash. And Tommy Alsop lived to play the bass on the ham band. Go ahead.
Well, that's a deal there. That's a deal to play for the ham band. That's a good thing.
And then some other people. We've got a lot of really good musicians. So the strange thing about the record is that it is far better than you might imagine. It's really. It sounds like a parody, and it sounds like we are not a serious bunch of musicians. But I can tell you, we really are. And we've got mixed reception. Few people think that it's ridiculous to sing songs about amateur radio. And to be honest, they're absolutely right.
And sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly. Well, I admit... country music isn't usually my style, even though, ironically, when I worked in radio, I was a DJ at a country music station for about 3 years. But when I listened to this CD, it was just so entertaining, and I just kept listening over and over again. And the last song that we're going to play tonight, I don't know how many times I've listened to that song in the last week, but one of the jokes I always heard about country music, and Rascal Flatts even made a song about it, is what happens when you play a country song backwards? Do you know?
I have no idea. Tell us.
You get your wife back, you get your dog back, your truck starts running again. Now, I didn't hear anything about dogs or trucks, but Lisa, I did notice there were several songs that had to do with hams that didn't keep their wives happy because they were on the radio all the time. So is that a real struggle?
Well, in our little family, it's actually not a struggle because Andrew never goes off to work and leaves me at home because we work together. We've been professional musicians together for over 40 years. So we're together 24 hours a day. So I think it's actually quite relaxing when he goes to his radio room and gives me and the dog a little bit of peace and quiet. So we're probably not a very typical ham radio family.
Now, Andrew was telling me about another one of the songs that was called Always on the Air. And there was an interesting story behind that where it was a struggle. So, Andrew, I think you've got your guitar there. You want to play a little bit of that one?
Yeah. What I'm going to do, what Lisa and I are going to do, we're going to sing the first verse, just a short bit of it, because we're not really up to scratch at 3 in the morning to play a whole song. But we'll play this one and try and concentrate on the words because I'm going to tell the story afterwards. So this is a little bit of the song called Always on the Air.
In 1989, a good old friend of mine got married to a radio ham like I did. They were happy at the start, then they began to drift apart. Because he's always on the air, my friend confided. 'Cause he was always on the air. It really wasn't fair. More sing to some man who wasn't there. Just like a crazy love affair, it drove her to despair. It seemed like he was always on the air.
And there's supposed to be a real big roar of applause there.
Oh, we have that. We have that. There it is.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, tell us the story about that.
It's just an amazing story, and it's absolutely true. And this is one of the strange things that not a lot of people have picked up on this. But Morse code is very, very interesting because there are some psychologists that say that it's the shortest way for two human brains to contact each other. Because once you're up to speed really fast, it's just it's so fast that you can't think about it. And what happened, and it's an absolutely true story, in our city in Denmark, the second largest city is Aarhus. That's Alpha Radio Hotel Uniform Sugar. And there was a gentleman who was a very, very fanatical Morse operator, and he had a very good friend in Switzerland, and he used to come home from work and go straight into the shack and operate the radio. And this went on for a number of years, and then the wife finally decided, all right, if you can't beat them, join them. So she got her license, learnt Morse code, got up to speed, and started using another radio in the same house. And they went on for a while, and then she actually fell in love with this Swiss guy and they'd never met, they'd never seen each other before. And at some point, she asked her husband if they could invite the guy to visit, and the guy came and visited, and the love proved to be true, and she moved away. So that was the story, Always on the Air, and it is absolutely true. And if anybody wants documentation, I have it. Okay.
Wow. So Morse may have some closer connections than we actually thought. Well, let's get back to join us on the airwaves, and we're going to play a little clip of that, just in case people haven't heard that. But tell us how you were able to video that while you were up on the tower, and that's not a small tower. That's a 100-foot tower. And I guess some people wrote in and said they were worried about you not being properly secured to the tower when you did that, and I know you were. So tell us how you were able to pull off that video shoot.
Well, the real reason we had a cherry picker or a crane. We were installing the top tower. We have terrible storms here. So, and by the way, I don't think I mentioned it, or you mentioned it, that I'm the chief engineer of the contest station. So I'm responsible for all the technical stuff. So when we did the music video, it was actually, we'd got the cherry picker to put up this huge antenna. At that time, it was a Sommer 13-element log periodic sort of antenna, very, very good multiband antenna. We've grown up now. We use monobanders nowadays, but back then it was multiband antennas. And so when I actually changed from my working clothes into the tuxedo that I wore for some stupid reason, I was already quite tired because, and this is why I don't have a big smile on my face, which I rarely do, as my wife will tell you. But the idea was that we would film the thing, and the crane was big enough to go above the 100-foot tower, so it's actually fairly impressive. Nowadays, people would say we've all done it using computer, whatever it's called, but this was done absolutely that we were really up there. And the strangest thing of all is that our little puppy, he was down on the ground. He was only 12 or 13 weeks old, and we played the song probably 25 times to get all the shots in. And of course, the puppy could hear this thing. And we're not the kind of people who listen to our own music, but for the 15 years that dog lived, he absolutely howled and screamed every time we played that song. That sad song. It amazes me that a 13-year-old dog could remember. It was a traumatic experience for that poor little puppy. Go ahead.
And it was only when we got to the chorus in the song. Yeah.
Always on.
And another thing was, and that was even more of a problem for us, because I had to open champagne up there. I was up on 20 meters, and I had about 6 bottles of champagne to open. And every time he saw us pick up a bottle of champagne, he would freak out completely.
Every time he heard the...
So every time we had to drink a bottle of champagne, we had to go into another room, a different room, while we opened it, and then it would be
Wow. Now, Lisa, you were up there with that champagne. I remember that. How do you climb regularly, or was that something that you just got talked into for that?
Yeah, I practiced a bit in the weeks before the filming. I practiced climbing up to about 10 meters with my mountaineering gear and stuff. But on the day we did the filming, I went up with the photographer in the lift, and then climbed over from the lift to the mast. So that was fine, and I actually enjoyed it up there. Before then, I had a bit of a scare about heights. But once I was up there on 20 meters, and the sun was shining,
and tied on,
and of course I was tied on. We are all tied on when we're up there. I thought it was wonderful. So pretty view as well.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And it's just because when you see professional tower climbers, they often have fairly severely large equipment to keep them safe. But when you would think about it, when rock climbers, mountaineers, they have very lightweight stuff, but it's strong enough to save your life, and that's what we wear. We wear very, very discreet, but very, very strong stuff. Right?
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that you mentioned that, because I know there were some people concerned about that. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's listen to just a little clip of that song, and again, you can catch that over on YouTube. It's "Join Us on the Airwaves" by the Ham Band.
Come
join us on the airwaves. Surf the skies and find new friends. Let the world unfurl before you. You'll be the one who sets the trends.
All right, so there you have it. There's the story of doing that song up on the tower. Now, one of my favorite songs on the CD is "I'm Not Climbing Up the Tower Anymore." And Andrew, you're 70 years old, you told me, and you're still climbing. So was that song out of frustration after being on the tower so long to make that video, or what was the story behind that?
I think the big problem, as many people realize, is that when the wind blows, you check the weather forecast and you think, well, it says this kind of speed of wind, but for some reason our station is incredibly windy, and even though they tell us it's going to be this kind of speed, it's always more, and we lose towers. In fact, our summer antenna, which has survived all sorts of stuff in Florida, it's a very, very sturdy antenna. And I remember talking to Mr. Sommer in Florida, and he said after the second summer antenna died a death in the wind, he said, you may want to try another kind of antenna. So we did. But the problem is that nobody except me at the station climbs the tower. So I've been doing that for the last 35 years. And I don't mind it too much. The biggest problem was getting past the tick ring halfway up the tower. If anybody's done tower climbing, the worst thing is climbing past a tick ring. That's really unpleasant. But apart from that, as Lisa says, once you're up there and you're tied on, it's a beautiful view, and you can work with both hands, and the height doesn't bother me at all. And I was up the tower just 2 or 3 days ago and fixing something which I hope I will never have to climb up and fix again, but I guess I will. I'll be up there quite soon. And, it's just part of the hobby. And part of I think it's the most fascinating thing about it is the antenna work. And so, I'm a rag chewer. Even though we have a contest station, I'm a rag chewer, and I enjoy any kind of proper conversation with somebody. But a lot of the other guys at the station are fanatical DXers and fanatical contest people. And there's room for everything in this hobby. I think I think the most unpleasant thing about the hobby is where people say, "I'm a contester. You're spoiling my ability to be a contester," or "I'm a DXer. You're spoiling my ability to be a DXer." I think we should be more tolerant. And if there's one thing that radio amateurs aren't, is tolerant. Don't you agree, Neil?
I think it depends on the situation. I think some people have a little better tolerance than others, maybe. Yeah.
But it's but it's a wonderful hobby, and it's really, really strange. The only thing, I was talking about the recently you had the big Boy Scout jamboree in the States, and there was also a similar thing in Europe, and that happened to be in Denmark. And it's a strange thing that in the old days you could really, at the Scout jamborees, you could really impress people by saying, you come from Japan, now come into the radio tent, and you can talk to your folks back home in Japan, or you can talk to somebody back home in Japan. And nowadays, nobody of the younger generation is impressed by that, and I think that's a shame, because it's so much different from using the internet and Skype and Facebook and all that, but. Times have changed, and I'm still impressed when I get visitors to the station, and you can always see a potential radio ham, and that's somebody who looks up with love at the big antenna and looks at the sky, and you can see them imagining the ionosphere. And I, in one of my songs I wrote, a glass of beer and a friendly ionosphere. And I think that's the way we radio hams look at the propagation of the waves. Go ahead.
Now, you mentioned identifying ham radio operators. You've told me that Lisa has a very unique ability.
Yeah, I can spot them. I've been traveling and been to parties, and all of a sudden I can turn to the guy sitting next to me and say, "You are a radio ham." And they'll look very frightened and they'll say, "How did you know?"
Well, hey, if we could, we're gonna stop here and we're gonna listen to just a couple of minutes of "I'm Not Climbing Up the Tower Anymore," and then after that we're going to take some calls. So here is "I'm Not Climbing Up the Tower Anymore" from the Ham Band.
When I was young, I used to dream I had the perfect radio shack. Big antennas on 100-foot tower, a brand new radio and maximum power. I never thought I'd ever get to realise that. Now Jan and me have got the lot, but I'm never on the air at all. Every time I want to chat for an hour, something sends me to the top of the tower. From today I'm gonna put a stop to all that. 'Cause I'm not climbing up the tower anymore. I told you once, I told you twice, 100 times before. The exercise may do me good, the view may overawe, but I'm not climbing up the tower anymore. That was the 7th time I climbed. Today my fingers are all raw. My nose and toes are frozen and my skinny legs are sore. You can beg and you can bribe me, on your knees you may implore, but I'm not climbing up the tower anymore. I'll just relax and chat.
Okay, well, there you have it. Andrew's not climbing up the tower anymore, at least until tomorrow. So it's time for your calls now. So if you have a question for Andrew or Lisa, that phone number to call is area code 812 and then net ham1. That's 812-638-4261 in numbers. 812-638-4261. Or you can Skype us. Our Skype name is Ham Talk Live. Or you can send us a tweet. We'll check the tweets here in a little bit. And that's at Ham Talk Live as well. So if you've got a question about the video or the contest station or any of the music on the CD, just give us a call. And the time to do that is now. So we'll take those calls as soon as you can make them. Now, while we're waiting on that, we've been talking about the contest station a bit. So I see that there's some songs on the CD about contesting as well. And so tell us a little bit more about your contest station there at OZ5E.
Okay, but OZ5E is the shortest possible CW call from Denmark. It's still a bit long with the O and the Z, but the E keeps it a bit short. And we have probably the best contest station in Denmark and possibly 4 of the best operators. We do have the disadvantage that we're a little bit too far to the north, which means that things tend to end a little bit earlier than they do further south, which means we have a handicap. But we really have aimed to go for monoband antennas. So we've got a really nice setup, and with monobands on 160 all the way up to 6 meters, and it works very well. And with just to give you an idea, our operators, they went to Qatar. I think it was Alpha 73 Alpha. I'm not absolutely certain. I'm not a person who remembers call signs very well, but Alpha 73 Alpha were number 2 in the world CQ Worldwide SSB. And that was 3 or 4 of the operators from our station who won that title. And if anybody's interested in contesting, the same team will be on Oscar Zulu 5 Echo, the CQ Worldwide CW and SSB contests, because they don't imagine they could possibly do better than number 2 in the world, because the competition is, of course, over in the Caribbean. So they decided to stay home. So look forward to that. Is there anything else you want to know about the station, Neil?
Yeah. So how many antennas do you have on that tower right now? And,
Well,
has it changed since the video?
Oh, it has. We've got 3 towers now. So it's monoband of 5 elements on 20 meters, 6 elements on 15, 6 elements on 10, and then a 4 square on 80, and vertical on 160, and a couple of things on 6 meters. 6 meters is getting really, really popular, not in my particular experience, but this new digital mode, which I can't remember what it's called. Maybe you know what it's called, but very, very, very high degree of activity on 6 meters at the moment. I wonder if you do that, Neil. Do you?
Is that FT8?
I'm not sure.
It's a brand new one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's never interested me. I don't know if you are aware of the fact that the difference between amateur radio in the States and in the UK and a lot of the other countries, certainly in Europe, is that a lot of the people don't really like rag chewing because English is a second language for them, and the rag chewing, if it's not within their own country, tends to be a little difficult. Whereas in the UK and in America, we're all rag chewers. We bore each other to death. Don't you agree, Neil?
And in fact, you talk about that in one of your songs that's coming up, and I really appreciated that, because one of the things that I've always said in ham radio is that there's 3 things you always talk about: the weather, your garden, and your ailments. Those are the 3 things that you always have to talk about.
Yeah, but and the one you're thinking about is I think I said I don't know your power or the height of your tower, and frankly I don't give a.
Yes, exactly. That is the one. That is the one, and we will play that here in just a little bit. In fact, we're going to play another little clip about contesting. This one's a fairly short one, but again, the phone number to call is 812-638-4261. So give us a call, 812-NET-HAM1, and if you have a question for Andrew and Lisa, and we'll be back here in just a minute.
Well, there's nothing in the world can beat a weekend contest, and no one in the world can beat us. We're busy getting ready for the final conquest, a lot of little plans to discuss. Just an hour to go before we start the show, and then it's 48 hours of hell. Although it's hard to explain why we put up with this pain, well, we do it again and again. We're gonna do it again! And in the middle of the morning, 50 meters is open and the W's are piling up. My friends are in the shack, but not a word is spoken. They're there to fill the coffee cups.
Now, when you're getting ready for a contesting when you're contesting, you could really get pumped up. Listen to that. We still not going.
He said, when propagation is dead, and I'll stay with you till it gets light. And I'm just a radio widow.
All right. Well, we are back, and apparently we're having some internet difficulties. So I apologize for that. We will try to upload the recording of this so that we get through some of that, but it looks like maybe we're back on. So I apologize for that. We'll get the recording back up so we can hear that. And let's see, we have lost the connection to Andrew, so let me pull that back up. We do have just a couple of minutes remaining here. So let's see if we can get Andrew back on the line. Andrew?
A fiber connect.
Oh, no, it's on my end.
Yeah, and the about it, it's because it's a fair tempo thing. I didn't mention that the drummer on this is absolutely the most renowned drummer in the world. He's called Kenny Buck. Use
here in time to wrap things up. Still having some connection problems here. Andrew, are you back with us?
Yeah, I've been here all the time. But,
all right.
I don't know
the internet here has been cutting out. I can see that it's cutting out. So, yeah. Well, we've lost a little bit of this, but we've got it on the recording.
We should have done it on HF instead, Yeah.
Let's
do that.
And the way the ionosphere is these days, wow.
If I just point the 5-element, I've got 4 elements. I didn't mention this 4 elements monoband on 40, so that's pretty good. 40 meters for me is a little bit like 20 meters at the moment. So if anybody's on 40, I can just point the antenna to America and I'll fry you up. Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, and we're just about out of time here. But I know you wanted to talk a little bit about one of your passions, getting people interested in ham radio. So let's talk just a little bit about that, and then we're going to have to go.
Okay, but my inspiration is I would really like people to appreciate why I love amateur radio, and I've tried to do it. And a number of people, you mentioned Bill Pasternak, and the other guy was Dave Bell, and Dave Bell actually wanted us to do a video about amateur radio to inspire young people, and that is partly why we did the silly one where we're up the tower. But I know that it doesn't really work, and in the same way that I'm saying that talking to the Boy Scouts and Girl Guides, and I think you call them Girl Scouts actually, but in England we call them Girl Guides. It just doesn't seem to appeal to young people that much because they've got their iPhones and all that. What I tend to point out is that it's easy enough to pick up the phone and call somebody, but you have to know a number and you have to know somebody in order to be able to call them. And the beauty of ham radio has always been the strange, unknown quality about who's going to come back to your CQ call. And that's what I'm trying to explain to people. It's just a different world, and it's very, very difficult to communicate the concept. And at the end of the day, we all discovered this for ham radio for different reasons, and I have not found a common factor yet. But I'm working on it, and I'm going to do a proper video that doesn't bore people to death, because the problem is they show you with your handheld radio, and who cares? It's just like a mobile phone. And they show people like us with 5 elements on 20 and 4 elements on 40, and this makes it frightening. But I want to show people with the station on Pitcairn Island or St Helena Island with the piece of wet string and a 10-watt transmitter, and that's what it's all about. That you don't need a fortune to get into this hobby, I don't think.
Yep.
Right?
Well, we're going to have to end it there, Andrew, but check out oz5e.com for the CQ songs, and about the contest station, and tune in next week. We hope to have something about Huntsville next week, but that's a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. So thanks to Andrew and Lisa, and I'll say 7375, and may the good DX be yours.